So I suspect this video is going to do pretty good. I know that most of my audience is actually older than me. I kind of know who my audience is. My YouTube analytics tells me that. I've been trying to explain that I believe that you got to live off-grid or self-sustaining instead of prepping, stockpiling. I don't think stockpiling is the way to do it. And here's a perfect example. First of all, I think stockpiling is more expensive. So if you have a fixed income such as Social Security, it's harder for you to stockpile than it is for anybody else because you have a fixed income. I mean, I hear that all the time. I have a fixed income. So if you have a fixed income and you need so much for your rent, utilities, and your food, there's not much left over to buy prepping items, stockpiling items. You're going to really wish that you had some financial backing, such as self-sustaining, when I tell you what's going to happen. Now, I'll tell you that in a little bit. But I've been trying to explain that living off-grid is much cheaper than living a normal lifestyle or a prepping, stockpiling lifestyle. Obviously, the obvious reasons is I don't have to pay an electric bill. Now, a lot of people will say it just costs too much to set up off-grid living. And I agree. If you do it like all these big fancy YouTubers do, you can spend anywhere up to $70,000 to live off-grid. But Carolyn and I did it for less than $15,000. Let's say you own a house. You could sell the house, make a little bit of money off of it, but Rob, the market isn't conducive to selling houses right now. You'll lose your blank if you sell your house right now. Well, that may be true, but imagine next year when they take your house because you can't afford the payments or you can't afford the taxes. So it'd be better to sell it now than to lose it later. So if you sold it, and even if you can make just a little bit of money off it, $15,000, $20,000, you could take that money and reinvest it into a cheaper piece of property like this one, $4,200, and within a year have it set up so you can live off-grid in a tiny house. Now, I know a lot of people don't want to live in a tiny house. Obviously, if you're watching this channel, you at least have considered the idea, I would think. So maybe now is the time. We all know that the economy is not doing well. Inflation's hit 9% now. I think it's down to 8%. I don't know if it's going to continue to go down. It sounds like gas prices are going to go back up. Our gas prices just went back up 10 cents, but that's up, that's not down. I think everybody's waiting for the next election. And they said, well, the next election, that'll solve all our problems. Well, it may not. Remember, to get extra votes, our administration that's in office right now is trying to give student loan forgiveness. So that's going to cost another, what, 800 billion, I think they said, and almost $1 trillion. So that's going to drive up inflation even more. And then what it'll do is it'll get the folks who got the student loan forgiveness to vote for this administration again. Hey, look what he did for me, free money. Inflation is going to continue to go up as long as our government continues to spend money. Right now, I think we have fallen backwards a little bit on inflation because people stopped buying gas. They couldn't afford it, so they just stopped buying it. Well, supply and demand kicked in. They said, okay, we got more supply than demand right now, so they lowered prices to get us to buy gasoline again. Just as we're getting comfortable with buying gas at $3.40 a gallon, it has to go back up. It's just the way it works. It has to. Inflation is driving up the cost. I suspect that this winter costs are going to go back up. Yeah, when you have to pay $5 a pound for chicken, I think that's what it was. Maybe it was $4 a pound for chicken breasts. Inflation is high. Now, if you're on fixed income with Social Security, how do you buy chicken? Well, you don't. So what are you going to do? Well, now you're eating beans and rice. So they're forcing you to be unhealthy. You're on Social Security, you're retired, this is supposed to be the golden years, you're supposed to have a good time, enjoy life, but you can't because you're eating beans and rice. It's all you can afford. And it's only going to get worse. So what's next? Just rice? Forget the beans? It could be. As you know, I'm a big carnivore diet person. We don't eat carbohydrates, we don't eat sugars, we don't eat rice. You know, carbohydrates turn into sugar. So I'm suggesting that we all eat meat. Well, how can we eat meat? Can't afford meat. Well, you got to raise your own. at least raise eggs. Eggs are just like amazingly good for you. And people still believe the old science, but they're reversing the science on eggs. Well, you can't afford eggs because egg prices going up. They slaughtered all those chickens earlier this year for the bird flu thing. Farmers have not gotten back into production with chicken just yet. Now there's, I think, bird flu over in Europe or someplace. So they're starting to call chickens over there. So they're trying to eliminate the population. I really do think that. They say that's what they're trying to do, the elitists. So if the elitists are saying it, you know they're trying. So as we know, like I said earlier, the inflation rate went up to 9% or something like that, I think last month, and then this month it came back down to 8%. But analysts are saying this isn't over. Since gas prices came down, even though they don't calculate gas prices into inflation, it gave people more money to be able to spend on other things, driving inflation down. I got spider web in my hair. Most times, people get a cost of living raise. People who have a job and people on Social Security. So today I found an article on Social Security. And the way they figure this is they base it, your yearly cost of living raise on Social Security, on the inflation rate. Now normally inflation is like around 3%. So they raise your, and there was a lot of math involved, so I'm not going to go through all the math, but they take that 3% calculation and they say, okay, then you're going to get, I don't know, let's say a 6% raise or a 5% raise, 4% raise. They're going to give you on Social Security more money than what the inflation rate was for the previous year. And they've been doing that for 50 years or 60 years. There's this calculation they use. Well, this year, inflation went up to 9%. Well, you didn't get any extra money while all this inflation was happening. So you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. You're on a fixed income. So let's assume for a minute that you got $600 a month, just using this as an example. But your bills went up to $1,000 a month. So you were doing just fine on $600 a month. You were able to buy food and your electric and your heat and all that stuff for $600. And then next year, let's say they raise it up to $700. So you've been keeping up okay. You don't spend more than what you have to, and you're surviving. Now, what's interesting is 90% of the population that gets Social Security right now rely on Social Security exclusively. They have no other source of income. And the thing is the people who are coming up on Social Security, 80% of them expect to make Social Security a large portion of their income. So now we're up to 9%. You can't afford to take care of yourself anymore. So what'd you do? Well, so a lot of people got their credit cards out. That was the only thing they could do. They'll buy groceries on credit card, and then they have $25 a month payment for the first month. Well, the next month they go out and buy more groceries and gasoline. Now their payment's up to 30 bucks. But you're okay right now because you're paying the bills, because you're not using your Social Security to buy groceries, you're using your credit card to buy groceries. So now you have debt that you're paying interest on to buy food. But the payment is still lower than what you actually make. But each month, that payment gets a little higher and a little higher and a little higher because you keep adding more to the credit card. Just the way it works. First month, you take out $100 on your credit card, you get a $25 bill. Next month, you do another $100, so now you got $175 without the interest. So now you have $175 on your credit card, so now you have a $35 bill. And it just keeps going up each month. But at this rate, you're never going to be able to pay off your credit card. So now there's this inflation calculator for Social Security. So then they said inflation rates went up to 9%. That means you were supposed to get 11.4% inflation rate on your Social Security. So your Social Security is supposed to go up 11.4% to help adjust for all this credit card usage you've been using. So you should be able to pay off your credit cards with this inflation adjustment. Well, the problem is inflation went back down this year because of gas prices. Everybody stopped buying gas because they couldn't afford it. So gas prices came back down, driving the inflation rate back down to 8%. So the expected 11% that all analysts were saying that you were going to get, you're not getting now. You'll get something less than that. So all this money you put on credit card will still be there, because you won't be able to get the money that they said you would get because the inflation rate went up. They won't be giving you enough money to back pay your credit card. So instead of 11.4% raise, which was going to be the highest I think it's ever been since the 70s. So that means everybody who was on Social Security in 2022 spent more money than they had on credit cards. Then they are not going to adjust the inflation rate to what you actually had to spend. Assuming, let's just use for an example, you ended up having to spend $1,000 per month, but you were only making $600. So the inflation adjustment for next year was supposed to pay off the balance, which was $400. You're not going to get that $400. You're going to get $300 or $200. So you'll be able to pay off some of your credit card, but you're still going to be behind and you're never going to be able to catch up. This is why I think right now, selling your house and finding a piece of property is vital. Prepping is not going to get you there. First of all, you can't prep enough. You're going to be so far behind for so long that you'll still have a credit card debt based on what just happened for the rest of your life. Now, what's really sad is they expect the inflation rate to go do the same thing next year as it did this year. So it's going to go up and then drop back down about mid-year. So each year you're going to be buying things off credit cards and never getting ahead of the credit card. So you're constantly going to be struggling to get ahead. You can't do it unless you just reduce your bills. The only way to do that is get off grid. Stop paying the electric bill, minimize your life, buy chickens, stop buying the eggs at the store, stop buying beans and rice. You might actually be able to live healthier and happier than you are right now eating beans and rice. So you are going to get cut. But the thing is you're actually going to still see a pay raise. Your Social Security will go up next year, but it won't be enough to get you over what you spent this year. The only way I can see to help you is to get out of the city, find yourself a nice little place like this. Look at all the woods. Isn't this just beautiful? I mean, imagine this. Get yourself a little Home Depot shed, put it on the property, hook up some solar panels, raise some chickens or rabbits or ducks or whatever's easy for you to raise. And then you don't have to worry about Social Security inflation adjustments. Whatever extra money you make is just money in the bank. So you can live that happy retirement. So if you'll click that super thanks button down there, I really appreciate it. So I hope I can inspire you to get ahead of it so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.